You're doing exactly what I've encouraged our listeners to do. Call talk radio. Write letters to the editor. Write your representatives. Trump can't do it alone. This army of warriors that he's assembled cannot do it alone. They didn't get elected without the 76 million Americans voting for them and going out at door to door and working as poll workers and putting yard signs in their front yard. We've all got to come to the party. And we can't let complacency seep back into our psyche, which is what got us into the position that we were in prior to November the 5th, 2024.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, and that's why I'm telling you that we have to find out who's on our team, or at least who's on our side, and continue to move forward with that. Because you stated a lot of valid points to do a lot out there, but the voters, we the people, don't keep our eye on these folks and start holding them accountable, we're going to end up losing this game. Because no, let me just say that no matter what people say right now, J.D. Vance is not our president. He had the chance to take the lead role and take the lead on this. But I tell you right now, it's not up to him; it's up to us, and that's where they got to get it through. People are going to start attacking J.D. Vance because they're going to assume he's going to be the president, but that's not true. We'll see what happens.
You speak the words of wisdom, and I really appreciate your calling this morning, Mr. Adrian, and I hope that you will feel free to call in the future as well. We got Joe on the line. He's calling from Chesapeake, Virginia. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning.
How are you?
Do you hear me okay?
Loud and clear, 5 by 5.
Okay, great.
Welcome.
You wonder why the states send money to the federal government and the government turns around and sends it to the states. I can answer that one. It's very similar to the one where we have foreign aid going to foreign countries. It's for control. And if you don't think so, check back in the news media where Trump has threatened to use that to control foreign countries, and I think he has done it, if I remember right. So that's the answer to that one. And another thing, the ignorance of the American public voters is appalling, and our way to correct that is to get the right information. Now, there's a very serious matter of organization behind the scenes which controls everything, and every time these news media people say something's wrong with Biden, and the people, therefore, behind the scenes are controlling him, which I totally agree with, but they will never tell you who they are.
Well, who are they?
I can tell you
who are they, Joe?
The Council on Foreign Relations. The Council on Foreign Relations. Do some research. And the best way to find out something about that is the New American Magazine. The New American Magazine. For your URL on the internet, thenewamerican.com. And they will tell you things that even Rush Limbaugh refused to tell. Limbaugh never told about this Council on Foreign Relations. And they control everything. 99.9% of everything that happens is either initiated or approved by them. Their members, approximately 5,000, are the super rich. My personal opinion is the minimum richness would be approximately $10 million.
Well, the Bible says it's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money that's the root of all evil. And I've just written an article that we'll be putting up on our website about how misguided America has become because of the dollar, the worship of the dollar by big tech, big pharma, big government, the military-industrial complex. We've got to rein it in. I'm there with you, Joe. Thank you for calling this morning. You're listening to the John Fredericks Show. I'm John Gordon, substituting for John Fredericks. We'll be back in just a few minutes, right after this short break. Don't go away. I want you to know how grateful I am to each one of our listeners and viewers of our live stream. We really don't take this airtime for granted. It is such an honor and a privilege to be able to come to you each week with our insights into the news of the day. As I'm fond of saying, we watch the news so you don't have to. We also would like to encourage our radio listeners to go to rumble.com, youtube.com, and getter.com, search for John Gordon Truth, and subscribe to our channel. That little act of kindness on your part would go so far because it would help us expand our reach. And for a limited time only, if you will subscribe to our channel and then email me at johngordontruth@gmail.com, we will put you in a raffle for this once-in-a-lifetime Trump hat signed by none other than Rudy Giuliani.
Wow.
And that's the truth. And thank you for your consideration. And we are back on the John Frederick Show. I'm John Gordon, substituting for the Godzilla of free speech or the Godzilla of truth and the blowtorch of free speech. I'm so happy to be able to occupy this chair this morning, and we've had so many interesting callers. We've got 5,000 people listening to us and interacting with us. Well, actually 4,500 on Getter right now. We also come to you on The Truth on the John Fredericks Media Network each and every Saturday at noon, from noon to 2, and then we replay that broadcast on the John Fredericks Radio Network on Sundays at 1. You can also find past episodes on rumble.com, youtube.com, and getter.com. And please, if you like us, would you please go there and just subscribe? We're up over 500 subscribers. We've got to get to 1,000. We've had a great 2 hours here this morning. I want to wrap it up with a couple of observations and mentions. One thing, the New York Post just published a story that says that the United Healthcare executive who was gunned down on the streets of New York just yesterday has not lived in the same household with his wife for a number of years. That is a new revelation. That the CEO was also under investigation for insider trading, and that whoever shot him had either a personal vendetta. My observations, my conclusion right now, based on what we know, is that it was a targeted, most likely paid for hit. And a lot of the people on Getter this morning said the guy wasn't worried about anybody seeing him. He wasn't worried about making a getaway. He just casually walked up, shot the guy in the back, and disappeared into the streets of New York. Why has he not yet been apprehended? Central Park is just a matter of blocks from that location, so it would have been pretty easy for him to have disappeared in Central Park and then disappeared into the streets of New York, maybe have gotten into a waiting car or gotten on a subway or a bus. Who knows? One person said, I bet you he's on some island right now drinking a cocktail with a little umbrella on it. I don't know. I don't know. It's very disturbing, though. It shouldn't happen in our country. But when you have Letitia James focusing on lawfare instead of protecting the people of New York, I think this is exactly what you get. The jury is meeting right now, today, to determine the fate of that citizen who I consider to be a hero, who put the homeless person who had been locked up multiple times for harassing people on the streets of New York and in the subways. He was threatening people on that subway car. This Army veteran grabbed him, put him in a headlock to subdue him until the police could come. The guy who was full of narcotics and drugs that we've subsequently learned tragically died. I don't think that should have been the penalty for harassing train riders, and I don't think that was the penalty that the Good Samaritan intended. But he subdued him. The guy was on drugs, and he died. And it's tragic all the way around. But the jury, I hope, will set this guy free today. The Supreme Court has under review. They held oral arguments yesterday about the permissibility of children obtaining gender changes without the involvement of the parent. I think it's the most disgusting thing I've ever heard of in my life. You can't get married. You can't serve in the armed forces. You can't buy a beer, but you can make a life-altering change without your parents' involvement or knowledge, and it's irreversible. And there are people in this country that sanction that. I just have to, I'm bewildered how somebody's mind thinks. All right, well, just in the few minutes remaining, I want to talk about Elon Musk, Ramaswamy, and DOGE, the Department on Government Efficiency. Hallelujah. Reagan tried it. He appointed a commission called the Grace Commission, headed by J. Peter Grace. It was essentially the same concept as Doge, and it went nowhere. But this is different. This commission is being headed by Elon Musk, who paid $53 billion for Twitter, and then summarily released 2/3 of the workforce because they weren't coming to work. They weren't doing their job. And instead, they were censoring people if they didn't like their political ideology. And Musk has said, no, X, formerly Twitter, is going to be the digital town hall place that you can come and discuss topics of the day. Well, just as he got rid of 2/3 of Twitter's worthless workforce, he and Ramaswamy, they're talking about getting rid of $2 trillion of federal government spending, which would be 1/3 of federal government spending. And they're going to require federal workers to return to their offices. Supposedly, the Social Security Administration buildings are ghost towns because 70% of the people don't show up for work. And they're supposedly working from home. And if you believe that, I've got some real estate here west of town here in West Palm Beach I'd like to discuss with you. They're getting a free ride, and the party is about to come to an end. And we have a unique opportunity in this country right now to take this model that is upside down, where we are subjects of a out-of-control federal government that has no hesitancy to come in and raid your home with a warrant that is obtained based on lies and ruin you, like they did to Rudy Giuliani, like they did to Peter Navarro, like they did to Steve Bannon, like they did to the 45th President of the United States and his son and his wife. Federal agents went through Mar-a-Lago and entered the private sanctuary of Melania Trump and went through her dresser. Damn you! To hell with you! And now I do want accountability. I want to know who those agents were, and I want to know who gave the order, and I want them to be held and brought to task over it. That's not America. That cannot happen in America. And that's what DOGE is seeking to correct. And they're going to correct it by using the power of the purse. All we need is a willing Congress. And that's where you come in, folks. And that's what we talked to Adrian about and Joe about and our other callers this morning. These people cannot do it on their own. They can only do it if you will rush to their side and help them. You help them by calling talk radio, by writing letters to the editor, by sitting down right now, this morning, 10 minutes of your time, write your congressman and your senators and tell them, empower DOGE and help get this federal government straightened out. I'm John Gordon, substituting for John Fredericks. Thank you for joining us. Tune in Saturday at noon for the next edition of The Truth with John Gordon. Thank you so much, John Fredericks, for letting me share this airtime this morning with your listeners. Have a great rest of your day. TGIF tomorrow and a great weekend coming up. And happy holidays. Merry Christmas to all.